Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is I, your girl, your sis, Tiara. And it's been a while since I've actually sat down and filmed. I filmed in bulk back in March, like I filmed video after video after video, and I had actually enough content that was supposed to go up until about this week. But I didn't post any of the content that I previously had recorded because I wasn't happy with the content and it didn't feel like me. I'm probably gonna try and post them anyway, but I know one of them definitely needs to be redone because it's kind of cringy, bro. You can see the stress, the emotional stress that I was dealing with at that time. I just haven't been feeling like myself lately. This video, I had a very hard time being ready for it. It's okay to not be ready to talk about certain things like this, but basically I had seen red flags before a toxic relationship started, ignored those red flags because I was tired of being single. Everybody else was in a relationship. A lot of the people get married or start a family at least by the age of 25. Like that's just Mississippi, okay? And I felt that pressure that I needed to find the right person as quickly as I possibly could. And instead of just staying single like I really wanted to stay single, because I really did. Like my first year in college, I got into a relationship with a guy that I didn't even like that much because so many people found the right person in college and I wanted to be that person too. But deep down inside of me, I really just truly wanted to stay single, and I should have just listened to my gut, but I didn't because I let myself be pressured. About a year later, I ended up in another relationship that wasn't the best for me either. We started out as friends. We should have stayed friends. It was one of those relationships where you would think things were okay and great because we're friends, and that because we're friends we would be compatible as a couple, and that's just not how it always works. And I ignored all of the red flags that pertained as to why he and I should have stayed friends and have not at all became boyfriend and girlfriend. The biggest red flag that I can pretty much tell you is that I was trying to make us get together. Like, you know, I liked the guy, right? But the guy always talked about other women. I mean, if the dude is just sitting there talking to you about other women and you like him, move on, because he's not interested in you enough to try and focus on you and talk to you and things like that, you know? Like, he's not gonna reciprocate. One, he doesn't even know you like him. I'm always to the point where I tell people first. I'm usually the first one to confess my feelings. I hadn't even confessed any feelings at all at that point. I just end up getting upset because he just kept talking about other girls and talking about how this girl's hot because she's got problems, like she's got control issues or possession issues or something like that, and that's hot. And why was I not paying attention to this? Why was I not paying attention to this dude thinking that he can break down a woman and become her savior? And why wasn't I paying attention to his white knight complex, which is a big red flag when any dude has a white knight complex? We joked about it in college. Everybody in the dorm joked about it together and made it seem like it was a positive, good thing to always feel like you have to rescue every single human being. After he found out that I was interested in him, I was trying to prove to him that I was worthy of dating. Every time I think about that, even though I've moved on from the relationship and I've gone through therapy and have healed up a lot definitely from that relationship, and now I'm able to write again because I had writer's block for the longest time because of it, I always cringe when I think about how I sat there at 2 a.m. in the morning saying everything I could to prove to him as to why I would be an amazing girlfriend, instead of actually just seeing myself as someone who would be an amazing girlfriend and being that amazing girlfriend for myself, you know? I never thought that I would be that person to just sit there for hours and hours and hours trying to prove to this person why being in a relationship was worth it. And then we were a secret at the beginning of the relationship because it was a trial run. I was in a very different headspace at that time. I was very insecure. I had just started going to therapy, just started trying to figure out who I was as a person outside of being a child. But I was like desperate to have some kind of romantic interaction at that time because I didn't want to waste time trying to find a husband. Now, what I've learned from that though, I needed to value myself as a person who could be a potential partner. I needed to see that for myself without having to prove it to anybody else. Because if I saw myself as a wonderful potential partner, then somebody else is gonna see it. You know, surely somebody else is gonna see how great I am. Can they handle that? Can they accept that? That was up to them. If you feel maximum anxiety, if you feel like you have to jump through hoops to prove to somebody that you're worth it, if you feel like you're okay with maybe being a secret because maybe their reasons for you guys being a secret is like an okay thing, then that's kind of a red flag, because it would make sense if maybe you're part of the LGBTQ community and both of you are in the closet, and because because both of you are in the closet, it's safer for you to not say anything. That is okay. But if it's because, oh, it's a trial run, that's not a real reason to not expose your relationship. And if you're the type of person who wants to tell somebody immediately that you are spoken for as soon as you end up in an exclusive relationship with someone, then you need to find somebody who is willing to be that way back for you. And that was the thing. I compromised a lot at the beginning. Like, the first year was great, and then suddenly things just went bad because he became really, really toxic. And when he became toxic, I became toxic as well. And that's the one thing a lot of people don't notice. When you are in a relationship with someone who is toxic, you are at a high risk of becoming just as toxic because you're trying to defend yourself. You know, you're trying to protect yourself. So you throw toxicity back at the person, and it's very, very, very unhealthy. So my relationship with my ex of multiple years was going really well in the beginning, of course. Usually, you know, they go really well in the beginning. Things happened to him mentally, and his reaction to it was very, very negative and very counterproductive. And because it was negative and counterproductive, it affected the other people around him, aka me especially, because at that point in time, I was the girlfriend, and the girlfriend is usually the one who is around the person and the closest person in proximity. The girlfriend or boyfriend, they're gonna get hit with most of the toxicity immediately. And then what made it worse is that this guy was telling me that he was dealing with depression and anger management issues. And I tried my best to be very understanding of the depression, very understanding of the anger issues, but I also asked why, multiple times, why did he have to be so mean to me? I had a couple of friends, but I didn't have other friends, a lot of friends at the time who had similar mental disorders. And the ones that I did have, they were very, very kind to me. Like, I had a couple of sorority sisters that had gone through depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder and things like that, and they were never mean to me. You know, they were never mean to me. They never yelled at me. They never said mean things about my weight, never said mean things about my face, never said mean things about my worth and my point of existing in their world. They never said anything like that. I would ask people, I'm like, is this normal? Is this supposed to happen? Is he supposed to talk like this? And some people were like, well, maybe it is his depression and his anger management issues, but you're supposed to be there and support him through all of it, even the really hard, dark times and blah, blah, blah. And you know, I did my best to the point where it ended up wearing me out. And all of the screaming and the yelling, and he would say, this is me, this is who I am. If you can't handle who I am, then you're just gonna have to leave, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I can't like abandon you in your depression. And whenever he talked and whenever he disagreed with me on something, or whenever he didn't understand something I said, it would be followed with yelling. He got that from his family as well, and I hated it because all the yelling would do was trigger anxiety out of me. And I would end up as a defense mechanism either crying or yelling back. Basically, it's like, that was the question I asked myself throughout the relationship. If a person has these mental disorders, do these mental disorders make them a very mean and cruel person to their significant other or their friends? Why is the person mean to me? Why am I always crying at the end of this? Why am I walking in the rain with water soaking down my head and everything, walking all the way home because this person is paying zero attention to me for days? I'm coming over to spend time with this person that I really care about and I've chosen to be in a relationship with, and they are ignoring me to do other things that they feel are better than me. I would end up just mentally in a dark place, but I felt like I couldn't go to anyone about it because whoever I talked to, it would be more like, oh, but you guys seem very happy whenever I see you two. You guys seem to communicate so well. Maybe you guys can fix it and blah, blah, blah. And weren't you guys talking about getting married someday? So maybe you guys can fix it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I can fix it. Maybe I can fix it. But there was no fixing coming from his side. I was trying to fix things. I was trying to mend things, and he was telling me that this is who I am. And I should have listened to him when he said that. I should have just gotten my butt up, taken my things, and never came back. When I walked out there in that rain, I should have never came back, you know, showered, warmed up, never came back. When he ignored me for 3 days, he went to see his family, didn't even tell me, disappeared off the face of the map for 3 whole days. I sent him a message, you know, every now and then to not seem like one of those crazy girlfriends that messages you constantly. But I sent him a message every now and then. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Hope you're alive. Hope you didn't die or anything like that. You know, trying to make sure, you know, he's good. and I'm hearing nothing. So by the time Monday rolls around, I'm crying my eyes out, and my friends are like, you're putting your eggs in too many baskets, in this one basket. You're putting all of your eggs. What is the phrase? They're saying this stuff to me instead of comforting their friend who's being neglected and abandoned by a boyfriend who comes back and says, why are you freaking out? I was just going to see my family. I don't understand why you would get so upset and think I'm ignoring you just because I spent a few days not answering my phone. And I'm like, but you answered your roommate's phone and you didn't answer me. Okay, we're making it seem like the issue that I was having and the upsetness that I was feeling wasn't really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of the things that this person was doing. This person screaming and hollering at me because I didn't make them a bowl of ramen isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. This person telling me that because I'm a black girl with This person telling me that I'm a black girl with curly hair and that makes me not as attractive but more exotic and taboo because I'm a light-skinned black girl, not a black girl. You know, I'm a light-skinned black girl with freckles and curly hair. Basically comparing me to a white girl to try and make me feel less than. This is just something that I've learned because this is I've definitely had this happen to me with multiple dudes, just guys that I would go on a few dates with. They weren't very happy with themselves. They were very, very insecure. They would talk badly about this girl to the girl's face so that she would feel less than. Some of you might have already experienced this or you are currently in the process of experiencing this, but if you feel like your boyfriend who you've loved for years is always being mean to you and beating you down and saying things about your weight, like maybe if you lost a little weight then I would be more willing to touch you. They do something to hurt you and you call them out on it, then they go, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that. Or saying, what are you talking about? I never said anything like that. Basically, I ignored all of the red flags that I should have paid attention to. Some of the red flags were huge. Don't ignore the red flags. As soon as you see a red flag, that's when you bounce. Things became toxic in the relationship. I became a very not nice person. I was somebody that I couldn't even recognize anymore. I was yelling back at him when he would yell at me. My friends banned me from their house because I would bring him over and he would just be very mean and toxic in the house and they didn't want to be around it and they assumed that I was madly in love with him, so they just banned me from the house, but they never told me why. But yeah, so this is the most serious video I've made. It's rambly. Maybe I will edit this properly to where everything makes sense. These walls are thin, y'all. So I'm going to go and eat a cookie and dip it in some milk, and I will see you guys in my next video. I don't know when this will come up. Peace.